So these two have been in a nice. I like that a lot. Very, very much. These two have had a bit of a tiff last time, but I stopped quickly. But it's all, I'm not afraid of small problems that move things forward. You know, I'm not afraid of that. I am afraid, well, I wouldn't say afraid, but I don't want patterns. You could get into cycles of negativity, a cycle of like a pattern of things are getting worse. That I do not want, and I won't let that happen. I think just like a relationship, I don't mean to, I mean, maybe not, you know, I'm not an expert, but sometimes you need to have small disagreements and then navigate those properly, and that actually moves things forward. But what you don't want is a negative cycle where things get worse. These two, Cubby's not here. Cubby is a more dominant dog mentally. Both of these dogs are more physically powerful than Cubby, but Cubby is very good at mentally putting Jackson and Zeppelin in line. They both have different personalities, Jackson and Zeppelin, but it's fairly similar. Both are kind of goofballs. They're both like the pranksters, but they don't take discipline well. So if you have a prankster who's generally out of control, Zeppelin's more of a prankster than Jackson. Jackson is here. Jackson's more just straightforward, dominant, but a little bit goofy, and he's always testing. Zeppelin tests a little bit less and is a bit more of a prankster, meaning like he'll give you the eye and then he'll do something he knows he's not supposed to do. He'll get the zoomies, or he'll run around and they're too close in personality and size and dominance level to not have to figure things out. It's too close. You know, when you're in a room and then like the person who's very similar to you walks in, it doesn't have to be like you basically, it doesn't have to be a negative thing. It could end up being a positive. Sometimes those things end up being super powerful friendships. I remember hearing about I have kind of a friend like that. And I remember hearing about a story who is, what was it? I think I've said this once before in a video, but I forgot my Greek mythology, if this even is Greek mythology. I think it was the Odyssey or the Iliad or something, where there were two, very powerful people back in the day, and they had this big fight, and then they became best friends, basically. So it doesn't have to be always like that. And sometimes it just ends up being that like you just give each other space or whatever. And sometimes it ends up being that you have a little bit of a problem and then you guys are close, or you have a big problem and you guys are even closer maybe. Who knows? There's a bunch of outcomes, but you kind of like have to figure it out. These guys, when they're too close in temperament to each other, they need to, it's like a conversation that's going to happen, and then how it happens is important, and how it ends up is what I'm thinking about. So these guys had a bit of a tiff where they started to have a problem last time on the hike. They got out ahead of me. I took the backpacks off because it was hot. I didn't want them to be stressed, which is what I'll usually do. Well, I'm not doing that again because I'll just splash water on them, keep them wet. But that extra weight, it's like free time. It's like, if metaphorically speaking, if they need to carry a load, metaphorically speaking, just like if you have a kid who has a bunch of free time, they're not carrying, I think I have to move forward. They're not carrying a load. So you give them responsibilities, or you give them this or that, and now all of a sudden they don't have time to get in trouble because they don't have the extra energy. So I give them that physical load where they're like, look, I would get into trouble right now, but honestly I'm kind of tired, and like pulling this backpack is leaving me with not that much extra energy. So I'm going to be putting the backpacks on both of them. I don't want them running out ahead of me and having enough energy to be able to be in front of me or outrun me or anything. Not that they would run away from me, but just that extra energy can get them into trouble, just like with kids, I would imagine. I don't technically know what I'm talking about in a lot of these cases, but this is just the way I see it. with the dogs, I think I do know what I'm talking about, but with kids, you know, if I'm corrected, I may stand corrected. So that's okay. But that's the way I see it. That's what's on my mind, and I like that they're doing that. I'm gonna put some of these guys on linked to the van so that they don't rush. They like to put a lot of pressure right on the door. I'm gonna play around with that and change that up a little bit. But I wanted to let them both off because I wanted them to be able to reconcile. Hey. See, yeah, that's fine. He does this. That's cool. He does that. That's all good. But it's a little bit like he does it so willingly, you know. They like that. This feels authentic to me, so I like that. The eyes. He's looking at me fairly authentically. I appreciate that. You know. Sometimes what they'll do, because he's a little bit like this. They're yawning. I like that a little bit. You know, he's flirting with it a little bit. Some of it's like if you ask a kid, like, hey, you know, sit down. And they're like, okay, I'll sit down. It doesn't mean they respect you, you know. Hey, do this. Okay, I'll do that. But they're doing it in a way that's like not what you were hoping for. It doesn't actually make them. Charlie's feeling like that, but I don't know exactly how to explain it. You know, it's like if there's somebody who's a boss and then the boss is like, oh, you have to do this. You know what? This may be a bad analogy, or maybe one that not everyone has seen, but in Scarface, he's like, I'm the boss. He's like, yeah, man, you're the boss. He's like, that's right, I am the boss. He's like, you're the boss. But he's like, that's not what he wanted him to say. He wanted him to feel it, and he doesn't feel it. He's like, you're the boss, but I don't respect you. That's what he's saying. So that's what some dogs will do. They'll kind of play with you. So him laying down doesn't really mean that much to me. Another dog like that is Luna. You have to earn their respect over time. You know what? I shouldn't say that because there's other ways to do it. I think you could do it in the moment as well. But I guess I'm just saying that now he's actually changing his state of mind for me, which I appreciate. The respect that I'm getting from these two is because of the situations they've seen me handle. So that's what's not on video, you know? It's not like he just respects me because now they're actually in a different state of mind, these guys. But like, I'm just thinking out loud is that it's because of what they've seen me handle. Just like with a person, you know, you could be like, you need to respect me. You could say that all you want, but really you're going to have to, you know, if you do certain things and they see you and they're like, oh, wow, okay, I respect you, you know. Nothing's free, you know. And so now he's looking at me in a way that I appreciate that, you know. So, but anyway, that's it.